Now, we spent a lot of time looking at the idea of passing an opponent's half guard. Let's look now at the idea of passing an opponent's half butterfly guard and look at the substantial differences between these two situations and what we need to do to be effective in passing the specific scenario of half butterfly guard. First, let's get a clear understanding of what is the difference between these two different challenges. When I have an opponent in half guard, the force that we're working against is predominantly a pulling force of my opponent's hamstrings and lower legs against my leg. So he has two legs which are engaged mostly in a pulling type behavior. If he has a knee shield, one leg will pull and one leg will push. Okay, but when we're in a chest-to-chest half guard situation, we're in a situation where Giancarlo is pulling with his two legs. Okay, and I'm essentially working against the pulling force of my opponent's body. Now, that changes abruptly when my opponent takes his top leg and inserts a butterfly hook. Now, my opponent switches from outside position with his leg to inside position with his foot. And as a result, he's able now to push with his shoelaces into me and start creating off-balancing. Okay? So the entire situation has changed radically from a fight against a pull to a fight against a lifting push. The amount of off-balancing my opponent can generate is substantial with this hook. It's a very different kind of off-balance than conventional half guard. When we're in a conventional half guard, the off-balancing we're facing typically begins with pulling hamstring strength, when my opponent goes into either a knee lever on one side or a bridge on the other. And in both cases, my opponent's feet go down to the mat and the hamstrings activate, and he either goes knee lever to his left or bridge to his right. Okay? That's very different in the case of half butterfly guard, where now the off-balancing comes from the lifting action of my opponent's leg. His shoelaces employ a lifting force, which can take me out of balance. Okay? He can do this to either side. If my body weight is to his right, he can lift to his right. If my body weight goes to his left, he can lift to his left. In addition, because my opponent has the inside position with his foot, it's very easy for him to go into advanced forms of guard that we saw in earlier videos. For example, he could easily lift me in this direction and go into Ashigarami. He could easily go into X guard. These are all great options for him from these positions. So, you must understand from the outset that you're fighting against a very different animal when you come up against half butterfly guard. And as such, you must be aware that when the foot changes from outside position to inside position, you are now in a different scenario. Do not conflate half guard passing with half butterfly guard passing. They are two different games. Be sensitive to this. Always be aware of your opponent's leg positioning. In particular, my opponent's top leg. That's the one that's going to do most of the change. When he is outside position with his foot, we're in the half guard scenario. When he shrimps out and puts the foot in, we're in the half butterfly scenario. And that can change in a matter of seconds. When it changes, my approach to passing must change with it. I cannot start with a half guard passing mentality. He goes to half butterfly, and I stay with my half guard passing mentality. I've got to completely change my mentality as his body and guard configuration changes. Okay? So that's our first important lesson. Whenever the scenario changes, our passing method must change in response to the change of scenario. Now, we just looked at the idea that half guard, butterfly half guard, is a very different scenario to passing a regular half guard. I want to start this ball rolling by offering you a very simple golden rule which will direct your behavior in the right directions when you do see the change in scenario. Okay, so we were in half guard, now we're in half butterfly. What's the first thing that should go through my mind if it's time for us to start passing? The golden rule can be stated as a simple single sentence. Whenever I find myself in half butterfly guard, I always want to motion my body, and in particular my hips, towards the butterfly hook. If you move away from the butterfly hook, you're going exactly into his game. You're helping him do his work. So our general rule, our default option, is always to move towards a butterfly hook, never away from it. So if we have a training partner down on the mat, and let's get this way, come on. We find ourselves in a half guard situation. I have my standard starting position here, and I see Giancarlo take his foot and hook inside. From here, if I move away from my opponent's butterfly hook in this direction, when he lifts, you can see I'm compounding the effect of the lift because I'm moving in the wrong direction. As I move out here and he lifts, oh no, I tend to go backwards. He comes up on top and we're in trouble, okay? I'm facilitating his off-balancing. As he lifts, as I move in that direction, it's so hard for me to recover, okay? So, what's the right thing for us to do? The right thing for us to do when we find ourselves in this situation is always to negate the butterfly hook by getting his butterfly hook knee pointing out towards the horizon on this side. What I don't want is his knee pointing to the ceiling, or even worse, pointing towards me. When the knee points towards me, it's so easy for him to lift and off balance me, even when my body's set in what seems like a strong position. Even when the knee faces straight up to the ceiling. Giancarlo is a strong kid. This is a brown belt world champion. He's a strong physical fellow. Look how easily he lifts me and recomposes to a full guard as he floats me up into the air and puts me in place. So when the knee points up or the knee points towards us, nothing good is going to happen. Not from my perspective. What I want is the knee pointing away towards the far horizon. Okay? The only way I can do that reliably is to walk in that direction. I must engage in a lateral shift across my opponent's hips and legs towards my opponent's butterfly hook. So once again, Giancarlo makes the transition into half butterfly guard. Immediately, we recognize we are in a different scenario now. This is no longer half guard. This is half butterfly. This is a different animal, and I must act accordingly. Our golden rule is we always go towards the butterfly hook. We always try to get the knee of the butterfly hook pointing towards the horizon in the direction we're moving. Okay? So I start a lateral shift going across my opponent's body, and I get that knee pointing out here. Now when Giancarlo goes to lift me, go buddy. It's so hard, keep sustaining the lifting. It's so easy for me to ride out the butterfly hook. Let's contrast that with knee up to the ceiling. Now when he lifts, he can get real force on me. Even worse, when the knee points towards me. Now he lifts, and I fall straight to my back. So the golden rule, half guard, buddy. Giancarlo makes the transition. Immediately, a lateral shift across the body. Get that knee pointing out to the horizon. Now when he goes to lift, I can easily ride out the effects of the lift. Okay, I'm in balance and my hips stay parallel with the mat. When the knee points towards me, my hips are not parallel with the mat. When he lifts, my hips face the ceiling and he takes me over so easily. I want to be able to surf on top of this butterfly hook. The only way I can do that is to keep my hips flush with the mat. And the only way I can do that is to move in the direction of the butterfly hook. Now when he goes to lift me, it's so easy for me to ride over the top of my opponent's legs. Okay? This fundamental golden rule of half butterfly guard passing must be an established part of your game. The first skill you need is the recognition skill. You have to be able to recognize that the situation has changed from half guard, which is a pulling form of guard, into half butterfly, which is a pushing, lifting form of guard. Okay, so the scenario's changed. That's your first skill, recognition. Second skill, imposing the golden rule of half guard passing. Always move towards your opponent's butterfly hook and get the knee pointing towards the far horizon. Never move away from the butterfly hook where the knee points back towards you, and it's easy for your opponent to tilt your hips and off balance you. Now, we've been looking at the idea of passing a half butterfly guard. The first big skill that we need is an identification skill. We have to be able to clearly identify, are we in a half guard situation or are we in a half butterfly guard situation? Because the situation is entirely different. It doesn't look like much of a change. It's just a change in foot position on the part of your opponent. But the consequences of that change are dramatic. You're no longer fighting against a pull of your opponent's legs, but rather a lifting push of your opponent's legs. As a result, we need to change our tactics when we put into this new scenario. Now, once we've done that, we've recognized now the golden rule of half butterfly guard passing. We always want to be moving towards our opponent's butterfly hook and getting the knee of our opponent's butterfly leg pointing towards the horizon rather than pointing straight up to the ceiling, or even worse, pointing back towards ourselves. Now, the next big skill we need to develop on is that of upper body grips. Okay, where there's a range of different upper body grips we can employ in order to pass half butterfly guard successfully. I'm not going to lie to you here. I have one absolute favorite upper body grip, which I use whenever I can when I'm in a half butterfly guard situation. It's the first one that I look for. When we looked at regular half guard upper body grips, there were a bunch of different grips we could use. We looked at many of them, and all of them were damn good. But when it's time to pass a half butterfly guard, I put one above all the others. And in these situations, I'm almost reluctant to go into my passes until I get this grip. I'm not going to say it's the only grip you can use. You can use other grips and be successful with them. But this is my favorite by a landslide. This is the near side underhook. Let's have a look at this. Okay, I'm in Giancarlo's half butterfly. Let's come around this way a little bit, buddy. Just like so. And we go through and we're in a situation where we feel our opponent has fed his foot inside and he's made the transition into half butterfly guard. We know that ultimately we're going to want to walk in this direction towards the butterfly hook. But at some point, we've got to start getting upper body grips. I can't be naive and just have my hands any old place. Okay, now even when I move towards the hook, he can go into ashigarami, cause all kinds of problems. So we need some kind of upper body connection, okay? The king of upper body connections in these scenarios, in my opinion, will always be the near side underhook. What I'm gonna do is take my hand close to my own knee. And as I push towards my training partner, I steal the inside position with my left hand. Now, from Giancarlo's perspective, he's going to want his elbows in close to his body too. So don't think you're going to get this for free. Okay, if he's an idiot and has his elbows out wide, of course it's easy. But it's not going to be like that in a fight situation. This guy's not naive. He's going to have his elbows close to his body. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our hand and make it as narrow as possible. I don't just naively come towards him and give him the inside position. I bring my hand in close, elbow in close. I put my hand close to his upper body, and I start moving across. I use that lateral shift to flatten him out sufficiently that my hand and elbow can walk inside, and I take my hand up here to the near side underhook. Now, a near side underhook is good, but best of all is a near side underhook combined with a head block, where I have a near side underhook on one side and my forehead on the floor on the other side of his head. The near side underhook, I said, it's a good thing, but near side underhook with a head block is a wonderful thing, okay? So we get the inside position and we get the near side underhook. Then I start coming forward and I put my head on the floor next to his head. This has the immediate effect of pinning Giancarlo's head. His head is pinned between my left underhook and my head position. So when he goes to move around, it's a very difficult thing, okay? Then from here, we commence the lateral shift. Remember, I want his knee facing out in this direction, okay? So I walk across his body. When Giancarlo goes to lift me now, it's a very difficult thing, lifting, for him to off-balance me, okay? It's a very, very controlling position. My other hand goes on the floor for base. So I have 3 points of base. My underhook, my head, and my hand. So it's a very, very stable position on the upper body, up by my opponent's shoulder line. Now, from here, when he goes to move me around, it's very, very difficult, okay? This is our favorite half guard passing position. It gives my upper body completely controlling the line of my opponent's shoulders between my head, my underhook, and my posting hand out on the floor, okay? That's always what we're looking for. So as my opponent takes half butterfly guard, we bring everything in close, and I start fishing for the near side underhook, walking my hand up and getting through like so. Now this is good, but it doesn't really get good until our head comes down as part of our base. Now from here, hand on the floor, head on the floor, underhook on the floor. I start the lateral shift that brings my body across his center line. So when he goes to lift me and hold me up, I can float on his butterfly hook, okay? Because I have a free hand, I can start posting on his knee. I can start pommeling a foot inside. I can hook my foot as a grapevine into my opponent's leg. I can hook my foot underneath his buttocks as a back heel action, okay? They're all good actions, but what they're all predicated on is this idea of upper body control with our favorite grip, okay? I'm gonna go through this one more time because it's so damn important. Coming up close to the camera now. Okay, my training partner inserts the butterfly hook. From this position, we hunker down. I take my hand close to his upper body so that when I put pressure forward and walk, I can get in there and dig for my near side underhook. Now, as good as this is, it doesn't get great until our head comes down to the floor. This is where I want to work from. As my opponent goes to lift me and suspend me in the air, I'm very, very stable. And this gives us tremendous choices with hand position on the knee, on the floor, hand on the hip, elbow inside. It gives us an ability to pommel feet inside and take inside position. It gives us an ability to grapevine our training partner's leg. It gives us an ability to back heel when he goes to move me around. So difficult, okay? This will always be my favorite method of gripping the upper body when it's time to pass half butterfly guard. Now, natural question for you to ask is, okay, that looks cool. We'll be looking at that very soon. What if I can't get the near side underhook? What if the guy just blocks me with his elbow and it's not there for me to work with? You can pass half butterfly guard with far side underhooks. It's not my preference, but it can be done, okay? So my opponent comes in and locks. Here, I have the classic top head and arm position, like so, okay? You got to be a little bit careful with this, okay? Because Giancarlo can take advantage of the fact that he can trap my arm on this side, and now he can use that butterfly hook to start lifting me and turning me over. So I've got to be careful here. I can't be naive, okay? Once again, in this position, he has my arm trapped. So if I start getting incautious with my base, look how he can use his left foot to either lift me to his left and off balance me over the trapped arm, or lift me to his right and off balance me over my crossface. So we've got to be careful here, okay? When we see this kind of thing going on, we want to take his butterfly hook out in this direction. Remember, we want his knee pointing towards the horizon, okay? The more his knee points up vertically, the more he can lift me and put me back in guard. The more his knee points towards me, the more he can flip me over my own crossface. So what we want in these situations is to walk across the body and turn our hips down. I can't be naive and have my hips turn this way and get rolled. My hips always stay square with the mat. As I walk across, he goes to lift me now. And I can stay over his body, okay? And it's possible for us in situations like this to start knee driving across, and from here we can pass in any given direction, okay? So yes, you can pass from classical top, head, and arm grips. It is possible. It's not my preference, but it can be done, okay? You can also make use of specialized gi grips such as this, okay? When my opponent locks into half butterfly guard, this gives me an active base of support, which can be very useful, okay? So when my opponent goes to move me around, we walk across and get that lateral shift, and I have a hand on the floor. So when he goes to lift me in this direction, it's quite difficult because of my wide base of support. If my hand is trapped underneath, there's a danger to be lifted over, okay? So from here, I walk across the body, head down on the floor. He goes to lift me in movement, and it's quite difficult. It's a very stable position, okay? If you're in a no-gi situation, you can do similar things by holding in here and just putting the back of your hand on the mat. Even if he has the underhook in here, if I put my head down on the floor and engage in the lateral shift, as he goes to move me around, it's quite a stable position. Not as good as a near side underhook, but not bad either, okay? When he goes to move us around here, you can ride out over the hips quite successfully, okay? So those are our favorite upper body grips. The king of the upper body grips is the near side underhook. This is the best one whenever we work in this position, okay? Particularly when it's combined with head position. This is the one we're always looking for, okay? When we combine this with a lateral shift across the body and get the knee pointing out this way, it's a devastating passing position. In my opinion, the single best one. If this proves impossible, it is possible to work from here, but we've got to be careful, okay? In these circumstances, your arm is capable of being trapped, and he can roll you over the trapped arm or over the cross face, okay? So we've got to do a very good job here of walking his knee with that lateral shift and using our head as a base of support and keeping our hips square with the mat. So when he goes to move us around, we're pretty stable. And as a result, we can start cutting across the body, pommeling legs, etc., etc. Okay? Perhaps a little wiser is to use the jacket with the lapel crossface, because this gives us a base of support with our hand. So when we go to work this position, lifting, you have a good base of support out wide, okay? In addition, if it's a no-gi scenario, we just use the hand here on the lat muscle, and similarly, he goes to lift us and move us, and we have a good opportunity here to ride over our opponent's hips and legs and go to work, okay? So those are my favorite upper body grips to work with when we're passing half guard. Now we're looking at a separate topic of passing an opponent's half butterfly guard. Our spiel here is that this is a significantly different challenge from passing a regular half guard. The forces you're operating against are lifting, pushing forces rather than the traditional pulling forces. As a result, we need to change our order of operations in order to pass this new challenge. We just looked at the idea of upper body grips, and we saw that our favorite grip by far is near side underhook. This is a very, very useful grip to use in these half butterfly guard scenarios. Now let's talk a little bit about lower body positioning. What should I be doing with the free leg in the case of half butterfly guard? I'm going to run you through this now. There's a bunch of good options. There's one which happens to be my favorite, and there are some other very good options as well. Okay. I find myself in Giancarlo's half butterfly guard. Once we get our upper body grips, I'm going to demonstrate out of my favorite grip, near side underhook with a head block. Okay? When we come up into this position, you can see that my left leg is free. Now, this free left leg of yours can be a wonderful thing to assist you, or it can be a terrible liability. Okay? If my training partner takes his butterfly hook in place, there is a danger at any given moment that if my opponent elevates me out in this direction, he can turn into an Ashigarami type situation. Okay, and anytime an opponent has an Ashigarami, he's also got an X guard. He's also got various other forms of guard that he can switch to. It's not over by any stretch of the imagination here, but it's not what I was looking for. Okay, I've gone from a situation where I was able to get chest-to-chest pressure and pass from half guard to one where there's no chance of me getting chest-to-chest pressure from here. I'm going to have to completely switch tactics now to conventional forms of guard passing. And I've got to dig my way out of a potential sweeping and finishing position before I even attempt that. So this is definitely not what I was looking for. So one of my favorite things to do is to start by denying my opponent's ability to get to any form of ashigarami. Now, if you know anything about what I teach, that probably means that means I need some form of inside positioning. Currently, when Giancarlo moves me around, he has inside position with his right leg. And as a result, he got to the ashigarami. Okay? So what I need to do under these circumstances is take my left foot and pommel my left foot to the inside position. Now, even if Giancarlo did lift me in the direction he wanted, when he goes for the ashigarami, it's just not there. I have the inside position. In addition, my butterfly hook in top position makes it very easy for me to base on my opponent's hips. When he tries to sweep me with his left leg, it's impossible. And it's so easy for me to use my head as a base of support and put my hand on his knee. Now when Giancarlo tries to move me around, it's so easy for me to step over his legs. And what have we got now? 3/4 mount. Now, does everyone remember what we do in 3/4 mount? This side in place? I'm sure you all remember. Double underhooks. Pop up. Transfer to 3/4 side. Use the sole of the foot to kick out and go into your pit. Okay? So we use our inside foot position to convert back to one of our favorite dominant positions for conventional half guard passing. So we change the scenario from what he wants, half butterfly, back into half guard passing. But not just any half guard passing scenario, one of our all-time favorites, one of the most dominant positions of them all, 3/4 mount. And from there, passes come easy. Okay? So let's demonstrate from a different angle. Okay, Giancarlo does a good job of getting the inside position. This is half butterfly. Okay? We do a good job of getting near side underhook. We do a good job of getting our head block in place. Now, through the stability of my head, underhook, and posting hand, it's very easy for me to pommel my left foot to the inside position. This means there's no more ashigarami danger. It's gone. When he goes to lift me, I can ride out his lift so easily. And then from here, I use my hand on his knee, make a strong leg and a strong hook. Now, I'm not going to be able to just step over in one motion. Instead, I push and I go 1, 2, 3, until I get his knee underneath my hamstring. The only thing left for him to grab is my foot. So that's what they're all going to do. The good news is, this is 3/4 mount, one of our favorite passing positions. We lock up double underhooks. If his arm is underneath me, I'll go over under. They're both good, don't worry, whichever one works for you. Now, I tripod, lateral shift, transfer to 3/4 side. From 3/4 side, we kick out, and we pit. From another angle, Giancarlo does a good job of working from half butterfly. We bring him down to the side. We pommel in, near side underhook. Head block. Tripod, pommel in, inside position. He goes to lift me to ashigarami. No way it's going to happen. I post on the knee. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3/4 mount. Double underhooks or over under. He tries to elbow escape. So difficult because of the body position we had. Tripod, lateral shift. Knee goes on the floor, 3/4 side position, kick out, and pit. In this way, we can use that powerful inside position to float over our opponent's leg and go into one of the strongest half guard passing sequences of them all. We started half butterfly guard, used that inside position to switch it back to a half guard scenario rather than half butterfly, and ended up in one of our all-time favorite half guard passing positions, 3/4 mount for the win. Now, that was out of an ideal situation where we had the near side underhook. a lot of the time you're going to be able to get that near side underhook. It's not that difficult. But there's always going to be that day you can't. So a natural question for you all to be asking is, okay, I see the value of this near side underhook. What if my opponent shuts me down and I can't get to near side underhook? Don't worry, guys. Just work with your crossface, okay? I'll show you how right now. Same scenario. We start off, half butterfly guard. I'm going to demonstrate it first with a lapel crossface when we're working with a jacket. Don't worry, I'll come back to show it with a regular crossface if you're working without a jacket very soon. I'll give Giancarlo his underhook, since many of his opponents are going to want that. Now from here, we start the action of a lateral shift, going across the body, and I pommel my foot to the inside position. I use my hand as a base of support on the floor. When he goes to lift me, lifting, I can ride out so easily. Okay? Even as he lifts me here, it's so easy for me just to step right over his knee. Okay? Now, don't think this is an extraordinary act of flexibility on my part. I'm a 53-year-old man with a hip replacement. Okay? If I can do this, you can easily do this. So, as he hooks into my leg, when he goes to lifting, it's so easy to step over. It's not because I'm athletic or flexible. I'm not. I'm the exact opposite of athletic and flexible. The reason I can do it is because I have an unfair advantage because of my inside foot position with my left foot. As he goes to extend his butterfly hook on bottom, I just extend mine on top. And because I have top position, it's twice as easy for me. So he gets a butterfly hook. If I just had outside foot position here, he lifts, I fall over like everybody else does. But when I steal the inside position here and go across his body, now when he lifts with his left leg, I lift with my left leg. And I just step right over the top. Now, from here, Giancarlo has his arms in. How am I going to finish this pass? I don't want to be naive and go across in this direction, because now you finish up in a weird headlock situation where your back is in danger. That's not smart. So instead, I'm going to go straight forward, put my knees pinching around his hips, and put my foot in the inside position. Hold on tight, Giancarlo. So from here, it's an easy thing for us to pommel out, come through, and block here at the hip. When Giancarlo goes to put me back in guard, so difficult between my gi grip here and my hand here on the hip. And we get a beautiful half butterfly guard pass. Now, there was a lot of material in there. Let's go over it again and start summarizing things. Okay. We've got a talented opponent on bottom. He's made an intelligent switch from half guard to half butterfly. We'd love to get our favorite grip, near side underhook, but he's a good man. He knows we favor the near side underhook, and so he prevents us from doing so. So we're working now with crossface grips. I'm showing my particular favorite form of crossface, the one I want you guys spending a lot of time with, a lapel crossface. Okay, we're passing from there. So here we are. Giancarlo has a good butterfly hook in place. Okay, I go forward, crossface, fundamental starting position, walking across the body. I can't be too angled like this. Headless with the butterfly hook, that's a problem. We're going backwards. Okay, so from here, we get a hold of our training partner's jacket. I put the thumb on the rear deltoid and lock in place. I want my body going across towards the butterfly hook, never away from the butterfly hook, always towards. I use my head on the floor for base. Now, I pommel my foot to the inside position. When he goes to lift me, I just lift my butterfly hook and we go over like magic. Now from here, I settle down to 3/4 mount. If he's naive, I take an underhook. He's probably not going to be that naive. He's probably going to come in here. From this position, I turn my hips out. I put my shoelaces inside. Hold on tight, tight, tight. I use either my shoelaces or the ball of my foot to kick out. I'm not naive. I don't get greedy and go to this side. I go to the opposite side towards my crossface and I pommel my feet across the body and end up across side. The danger now is he'll fight to put us back in guard. So I put my hand here on the hip and we end up in a beautiful pit. He goes to put us back in guard. And between my ear on his hip, my hand blocking, and my lapel crossface, when he goes to put us back in guard, that's so damn difficult. Okay? And you have beautiful control of your opponent's body. I'll demonstrate that from another angle so you can see what's going on. Sorry, Giancarlo, this is not a comfortable one to get through. Okay, we've got a talented opponent on bottom. He's done a good job of converting from half guard to half butterfly. I'd love to get this, the near side underhook, with a head block. That's the king of upper body grips. And if you ever get an opportunity for that, take it every time. But of course, he knows that, and he's going to make it hard for us. So we should have alternatives. One of my all-time favorites is to take advantage of the lapel and get a lapel crossface. So I put my hands here. I get the lapel and feed it through it. Okay? Once I make that feed, it's all about that lateral shift, walking towards the butterfly hook and getting our head down to the mat. Now, I know what he wants. He's got that inside position. You could use it for Ashigarami. So I pommel my foot here to the inside position. As he goes to lift me, that lapel crossface makes it so difficult. As he lifts with his left, I lift with my left, and I can always step over his butterfly hook. When I drop to what seems like the mount, he turns it into 3/4 mount. Now from here, my opponent's naive and his elbow is high. I go through underneath, switch my head position, cut across, and pass. But let's be honest, most of your opponents aren't going to be that naive. Okay, they're going to have their elbow in close. So when we see this, we're going to drive forward on our training partner and tripod. We're going to put our shoelaces inside our training partner's knee. And we're going to free the knee of our trapped leg and ride on our training partner's hips. I go to the same side as the crossface, like so. I walk around my training partner's body. I block the hips with my hand and my head. And I set myself against his elbow escape. When he tries to scoot away and shrimp, you have a punishing, powerful pin. And as a result, end up in a perfect position to solidify your pass. This is an excellent way for us to operate, okay? Now, I'm sure many of you watching this are saying, okay, that also makes sense. I could see that working, but what if my opponent's not wearing a gi? Or what if for some particular reason we are wearing a gi, but I can't get to the lapel and assert my lapel crossface? Don't worry, we can do it with a conventional crossface that doesn't utilize the lapel. The key element, as always, is to get the back of our hand to the mat. So let's have a look at this now. Giancarlo has the half butterfly guard position, okay? From here, we start off and we get our crossface in place, and I start the action of walking across his body, always walking towards our opponent's butterfly hook. I'm gonna take my hand and we're gonna grip where the lat muscle meets the rear deltoid. Don't grab the shoulder, don't grab the neck, grab the lat muscle here. Now, what I have now is good, but if Giancarlo turns towards me, it's not very effective here. It only becomes effective when I go forward and I put the back of my hand on the mat so that my crossface gets wedged in place by my body weight. Giancarlo is a very stoic and good training partner, and so he's taking this like a man. But I assure you, when you apply the crossface in this fashion, it's an unpleasant thing. He's not complaining about it because he's a good fella, but it's an unpleasant thing when applied properly. The key to making it as powerful as possible is to bring your shoulder to your hand. Don't roll across aggressively. Just bring your shoulder towards your hand and let the magic of body weight do the work for you. So I come in, I grip properly here, getting the lat muscle where it meets the rear deltoid, not the rear deltoid itself, not the neck, here. It's a good handle, okay? Then I bring my body weight forward, and then from here, I put everything down, my head on the floor, and my shoulder comes to my hand. My apologies, Giancarlo. From here, I bring my foot to the inside position. My hand as a base of support. When Giancarlo goes to lift me, I can easily ride over the top of his butterfly hook. Now from here, I pommel my foot here. So my two knees are on his hips. My feet come back to my buttocks, and I pommel over to the side. Now from here, I come down, and instead of going here to the hip, I close the wedges and lock underneath the far shoulder. When he goes to put me back in guard, it's a difficult thing. If I go here now, without the security of the lapel crossface, Giancarlo can shrimp away from me and put me back in guard, okay? I need something on the far side of his body. If I had the lapel crossface, that something is his lapel, so he can't move away. But when I don't have this in place, I need my right arm instead. So when he goes to move away from me, it's a difficult thing. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate it again for you. Okay, so we've got this tough and talented kid on bottom. He does a great job of getting to the half butterfly position. We know our golden rule is always to move towards the butterfly hook, never away. Okay, we need some kind of initial control. Best of all would be this, near side underhook with head post. That would be our best. That would be our first choice, but we can't always do it. Second choice would be this, the incredible power of the lapel crossface, okay? But if I cannot access that, I've got to go to the next choice, either because we're going no gi or because the lapel's just not there. I could go scapular crossface. I like that, it's a good choice, but for no gi purposes, I'm gonna demonstrate here at the lat muscle, okay? Now, as I go forward on my training partner, I use head position, head down, my body weight coming down over my own hand so that the back of my hand wedges on the mat. My second hand posting out here as an action hand. Now there's a danger he's going to lift me in this direction and go ashigarami. That's the danger. So what we want to do is pommel to the inside position. He goes ashigarami, it's not going to happen. I have the inside position, okay? He goes to lift me, I ride over the hips. Because my left leg is in top position, when I extend it, it beats his bottom leg extension. Now from here, he grabs a hold of my foot. So I take inside position with my right foot and I separate his legs. Now I ride over his hips and bring my feet to my own buttocks. If he goes to explode and bridge, I go to the side. If he goes to elbow escape, there's nothing to catch. My feet are by my buttocks. Go to elbow escape, buddy. And I easily win. Now, I come back, I capture the far side of the body and lock. From that lock, my two knees come in close. He goes to elbow escape back to guard. And it's so difficult. He goes to frame with his hands, put me back. My chin is locked to his shoulder, locked to my hands. My chin comes up, he can frame, cause problems. So we always get the chin down like so. He goes to bridge to his left. He goes to bridge to his right. He goes to elbow escape. He goes to frame. And it's just so difficult. And we can lock him down with a very solid pin after our pass. So these are my favorite ways to work with upper body grips into our half butterfly passes. In the previous sequence, we looked at half butterfly guard passing, and I advocated with regards to the lower body, taking your free leg and pommeling it to an inside position butterfly hook, so that your opponent has a butterfly hook on you from bottom, and you have a butterfly hook on them from top. My experience is very simple. Whenever both athletes have a butterfly hook, one on top, one on bottom, the top guy almost always wins. Okay, his butterfly hook on bottom is a wonderful thing for him. But when I have a butterfly hook on top, my overall top position always enables my top butterfly hook to dominate his bottom butterfly hook. So that's why I'm such a strong advocate of always using the inside position gained by pommeling to a top butterfly hook whenever I'm in a half butterfly guard. I'm sure you guys know me well enough now to predict that in any situation where there's ashigarami danger, I'm always going to advocate inside foot position. Okay, that's another reason why I favor pommeling to an inside butterfly position whenever we're in top of butterfly guard. Nonetheless, there are some situations where you might forego going to a top butterfly guard. It might be because your opponent's much shorter than you and you're having a difficult time getting your foot to the inside position. It might be because he's damn good at preventing you from getting the inside position you covered. Are there alternatives? The answer is absolutely. There's some damn good ones. Let's have a look at them now. Okay. One really useful one, which I use in very specific situations, normally when my opponent on bottom has a very strong bridge, or they're a little bit naive with their foot positioning. In these situations, I often advocate the use of grapevine hooks. Okay, so instead of a butterfly hook, we go grapevining. From a situation where my training partner has half butterfly guard, and from here, I have either cross vase or near side underhook. I'm going to demonstrate it out of a cross vase, but it could also be done out of near side underhook. Okay. From here, if I ever see my opponent's foot on the floor, why would he put his foot on the floor? It's normally because he wants to make his lift even stronger by bridging. And when he bridges off one foot and lifts with the other, he can get quite a bit of horsepower. Okay. Sometimes guys just get lazy and they just put the foot on the floor. It happens. Okay. Whenever we see our opponent's foot is on the mat, I might be tempted, instead of pommeling to an inside butterfly hook, which happens to be my favorite grip, another good alternative is to finagle my foot through and put in a grapevine hook. Now when my opponent goes to bridge me over or to lift with his left foot, go, he'll never do it. And we step effortlessly over into the mount, okay? Now, when you use this method, if you ever do get this grapevine hook, it almost looks comically easy when you mount your opponent. Okay, it's almost humiliating for the guy on bottom because you feel like a complete klutz. You lifted with all your strength with your butterfly hook. You're, hey, I got my favorite half guard butterfly. Let me launch this guy, and the guy just lands mounted on you. So it's an incredible position if you can get to it. Will you always be able to get the grapevine? No, because it does require that your opponent's foot be planted on the mat. And in my experience, better opponents typically don't do this. What they do typically do in half butterfly guard, if they're good with half butterfly, what they typically do is they put this foot here across my shin. Okay, and this is probably the most common half butterfly guard situation that we face, the so-called A-frame, where my opponent's leg forms the shape of the capital letter A, like so, and they dig their foot in, they grapevine down here. Okay, when your opponent is in this position, it's very, very hard for me to get the grapevine. So when the foot touches the mat, it's a luxury. And I'll take advantage of this every time. I just bring my foot in and grapevine. When I grapevine, I put pressure on the leg. So when he tries to take the grapevine out, it won't be easy. Now when he goes to lift me, you mount it. It's that easy, okay? Now, you might be saying, okay, when's that going to happen? Well, it might happen because he's naive, okay? Not all of your opponents are the best guys in the world, so guys make naive mistakes. It happens. But in my experience, it normally happens when guys try to bridge from the bottom position, okay? So if you're dealing with a strong bridge from bottom, look for these opportunities. They're going to be there. Use your feet to feel where your opponent's legs are. You don't have eyes in the back of your head, okay? You can't look back and see what his hooks are doing. Learn to use your feet and tactile sensation to discover what is this man doing with his legs. So I'm in my training partner's half butterfly guard. From here, I don't want to be looking back, trying to figure out what is this guy doing. I should be able to feel it with my legs, okay? If I can touch and feel where his feet are, and I feel him putting a foot to the mat, that should be pretty obvious to me. So I can feel where the foot is, I sneak my foot around the corner, and I get my grapevine in place. Now when he goes to lift, I just easily ride it out. Why is it so easy for me? because I'm connected to his other leg through the grapevine. If I wasn't connected and he lifted, I'm going to start floating and flying. But I'm hooked onto him. So his own right leg holds me in place. Now, as he lifts and lifts and lifts, you just step on over. It's just so easy, okay? So be aware of the usefulness of the grapevine method whenever your opponent plants a foot. Will he always plant a foot? No. In fact, in my experience, the better guys don't do it very often. But it can happen. And when it does, take advantage of it. Okay? Remember, a lot of jiu-jitsu is learning to take advantage of mistakes. Not everyone you fight is a genius. And people do make unforced errors, and nothing wrong with taking a shortcut to what you wanted. Now, okay, what if my opponent's not making naive mistakes and the grapevine method isn't there for me? Do I always have to go to the inside position, shoelaces inside, butterfly hook? No, there's another good alternative. You can also back heel and take your foot and hook into your training partner's buttocks and hips. This too is a good method. In my opinion, it's not as good as inside position with the foot, but that's a personal opinion on my part. There's plenty of players out there who are damn good at passing half guard who favor this method of hooking into the buttocks. Because the students that I teach are extremely strong in leg lock attacks, particularly out of half butterfly guard. It's one of the things we're most well known for. I'm usually a little bit reluctant to pass against my own students with my feet in the outside position because there's so much danger of getting caught in ashigarami attacks, and then they're damn good at finishing those. It's a, you know, I put myself in that kind of danger. But not everyone's an ashigarami specialist. And in these circumstances, it might be a good thing for you just to stay with your foot on the outside position and work from there. I'll demonstrate what I mean. Okay, here we are. Working from bottom position. He's got his half butterfly guard. My favorite grip would be here, but I'm going to demonstrate it so you can see more clearly from the crossface situation, okay? From crossface situation, you guys know I'm a big fan of this inside foot position, okay? But a nice one for us to work with, if with the foot is not on the mat, we can't get grapevine, maybe he's hooked across over my shin, like so. Another nice one for us to work with is to walk across and just connect my heel to his butt. I use my hamstring muscle to hook onto my training partner's hip. So when he goes to lift me from here, you have a good connection through that back heel action. And as he goes to lift, we just post our hand on the knee and we go across. Why is this working well? It's because of my forehead. I put my forehead on the mat and I use that as my base of support. Because my weight is supported on my forehead, my other hand is free to kill his butterfly hook. I'm killing his butterfly hook with my hand. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate it from this angle so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, understand something about butterfly hooks. The way a butterfly hook works is by two actions. One is the extension of the leg. That's one part of a butterfly hook. The other is the movement of the knee towards the chest. When you look at a butterfly hook in operation, it's never just the lifting of the foot, and it's never just the knee to the chest. It's the combination of the two which gets you moving. So for example, if Giancarlo has my arms trapped in here, like so, watch Giancarlo's left knee. As his knee comes up to his chest, he takes me over very easily in a sumigaeshi type action. Do it as slowly as you can, Giancarlo. So from here, I base out. Watch how his foot starts to lift and his knee comes to his chest. I can hop, only so many times before I fall, okay? Well, what if I had a hand on his knee, which prevented his knee coming to his chest? Then the only thing Giancarlo could do is lift, like so. And I tell you now, that's not strong enough to sweep you, okay? So, in half butterfly guard, when I come in, I get my grips. I might be here with a conventional crossface. I might be here with the lapel crossface. I might be here with a scapular crossface. I might be near side underhook, our favorite. I'll just demonstrate it out of a basic crossface, okay? We know the golden rule. The golden rule is we always walk towards our opponent's butterfly hook. This enables me to put my forehead on the mat. When my forehead touches the mat, I put my hand on his knee and I hook my foot to his buttocks. Now when Giancarlo goes to lift me, he can't bring the knee to the chest, and it's so easy to push through. What Giancarlo finds is that he needs the knee to the chest and the lift of his foot to put me over. When he only has one, it's never enough. Here's another interesting fact. When Giancarlo goes to lift his leg, okay, his leg becomes a ramp. The more Giancarlo's leg straightens, the more I can slide down the ramp. When his leg is bent, here, I have to step over his leg. But as the leg straightens, I slide down. That's what we do here. I use my head as a base of support, and I balance over my opponent, and my foot comes in. I put my hand on the knee, he goes to lift, and we're mounted. This method of guard passing is delightful when you watch it done well. When you see someone who's strong at this form of guard passing, it looks so effortless that it appears that the person on bottom has no skills in jiu-jitsu. And that's not true. There's many good people who've had their guard passed this way, and it looks comically easy. An opponent for one of my greatest students, George St. Pierre, who was particularly adept at this form of passing, was BJ Penn. And he was an absolute master of using his flexible, dexterous feet to hook into his opponent's hips, post on the knee, and you would see good jiu-jitsu players, guys who had a pretty decent butterfly guard. He would just step over and you would look at a magic trick. You'd go, my God, he's done it again. And he was someone who was particularly adept at this form of passing. It can work for you as well as him. Unfortunately, people always misinterpreted Penn's success with this as contingent upon his flexibility. They say, BJ can do that because he's flexible, but no one else could. It's not true at all. I'm a 53-year-old man with a hip replacement. I'm not flexible at all. I'm the opposite of flexible. And yet I can do it very easily. It just has to do with physics. Understand that as his leg straightens, you slide down. If you're down here, you can't slide up a shin. But as he goes to extend, you easily slide down to the hip. Understand that two actions are required here. He can't just lift with the lower leg. It's not strong enough to lift me. He needs to bring the knee to the chest and lift. Then he can lift me. But if I put a hand here and he tries to bring the knee to the chest, he can't do it. Now he just creates a ramp for me to slide down to the hip. It's physics that gets you past. It's not flexibility. If it was flexibility, I wouldn't be able to do this at all, okay? Let's have a look at this one more time so you get these critical themes. Okay, we've got a tough, talented opponent who puts us in half butterfly. Best of all would be near side underhook. Okay, but I'm going to demonstrate it out of not an inferior grip, but a slightly less powerful grip, just a regular crossface, which is easier to get, but not quite as good. Now, what we want is a forehead on the mat. The only way I'm going to get my forehead to the mat is a lateral shift, where I walk across my opponent's body and obey the golden rule of butterfly guard, which is to always go towards our opponent's knee, never away from it. If I go away from it, it's easy for him to lift and impossible for me to get my head on the floor. If I start trying to push the knee now, he just lifts me and I'm done. Okay, and then you end up looking like the fool instead of him. That's no good. So we always walk across our training partner's body towards the butterfly hook. That enables us to get our forehead on the mat. Now we take our foot and hook close to our training partner's buttocks. Now from here, I put my hand on the front of the knee. As my training partner goes to lift me, we just step right over and look at that. You didn't just pass his guard. You pass his guard and you mounted. Okay, you're 7 points up and you're looking good. Demonstrate from the other side. Conventional crossface, he's got a butterfly guard in place. First thing, obey the golden rule of half butterfly passing. To walk across the body with a lateral shift so we can get our head to the mat. Once my head is on the mat, I curl my foot in towards his buttocks and I back heel. He goes to lift me, I post on the knee, we step forward, and we're mounted. You can see these changes in lower leg positioning create all kinds of golden opportunities for us to pass even the toughest half butterfly guards. Now, we're looking at the question of passing half butterfly guard. Let's start putting everything together that we've seen so far. We can put this into a very easily assimilated, systematic way of dealing with the situation. Everything begins with recognition. Okay, so your first skill that you need to develop here is the skill of recognition. When Giancarlo is in the half guard situation, what we have to be cognizant of is our opponent's top lower leg. Is it on the outside, regular half guard? That's one order of operations that we looked at earlier in the video. Has my opponent tucked his foot into the butterfly position like so? This creates an entirely different scenario. I know it doesn't look like that much of a change. It's just a change in the lower leg position. It doesn't look very dramatic, but it's a change of very important magnitude. The idea is that here, my opponent can only engage in pulling actions with his legs, whereas here, he engages in lifting, pushing actions with the lower leg. And so we must treat this seemingly small change in circumstances with a lot of respect, because it's a different scenario we're facing now. Now, when we have a regular half guard situation, I can use a lateral shift in either direction. I can go across my opponent's body to the far side, or I can go back here to the near side. So for example, if I'm locked up like so in half guard, I can start walking across with a lateral shift. And I can also start walking back towards myself with a lateral shift and get my knee to the floor on either side. That changes when we're in half butterfly guard. And half butterfly guard is only a lateral shift across the body. We don't go lateral shifting this way. It's a disaster. Okay. If I use a lateral shift away from the butterfly hook, my opponent easily takes me over backwards and knocks me off balance. So the lateral shift in half butterfly only goes in one direction, here, towards the butterfly hook. And our intention is to get our forehead down to the mat. Okay. So we move across the body and get our forehead to the mat. What's so special about that? What's so special about forehead on the mat? Well, when we take our opponent's knee and make it face out towards the horizon on this side, you drastically limit the lifting power of your opponent's butterfly hook. His butterfly hook is at its most effective when it faces up, or even better, towards me. Now, any lift on his part will quickly knock me backwards. When the knee faces out in this direction and I put my head on the mat, that enables me to use my hand and my head as a base of support. When he tries to lift me now, it's so difficult for him to be effective, and you can ride out the lift very easily. Even if I put my hand on the knee, my head is still a good base of support, and we can easily step over that leg. So when we go into the half butterfly situation, the lateral shift is monodirectional. It just goes away towards our opponent's butterfly hook, never coming back away from the butterfly hook. Second thing, upper body grips change. Grips that seemed like very good grips in the half guard situation can be a bit of a liability when we work in half butterfly. So for example, top, head and arm is a splendid grip when we're going to pass a regular butterfly guard. But in the case of half butterfly, it can be a bit of a liability, because now when I move across my opponent's body, he can trap my arm. And as I go to engage in any kind of passing behavior, he can just lift me over my trapped arm and take me across. So as a general rule, we favor certain kinds, a smaller number of upper body grips. I'm going to say to you that the best upper body grips are those which enable me to base out on the floor in the side we're walking towards. Okay, so I'm not a big advocate of locked hands when it's time to pass half butterfly guard. You can do it, it's not wrong. But as a general rule, we're looking to go across the body and we want the security of a hand posted out like so. So when he goes to lift me in the direction of my movement, it's very, very hard for him to offset my balance. If we use that hand, I can switch the hand to here or here, provided my head is on the floor for balance. Okay? So this is another important consideration. With regards to my upper body gripping, you have a smaller number of choices, but they're damn good ones. I'm going to say to you that the king choice, the one I favor more than any other, is a near side underhook here, because this enables me to get my head to the floor and completely trap my opponent's head between my underhook and my own head. It enables us to walk across the body into very strong passing positions where his head is totally trapped. It's not always possible, however, to get the vaunted near side underhook. Sometimes my opponent positions his arm in close and it's not always possible. In these cases, I'm going to recommend cross-face grips, okay? But a particular kind of cross-face grip, a cross-face grip where I have a hand out wide for base. I'm going to recommend the basic crossface where my hand goes to the lat muscle where it meets the rear deltoid, and I bring my shoulder over my own hand. If my shoulder is not over my hand, I can't get my head to the floor, and I'm not effective, and there's no real crossface pressure. Only when my shoulder is vertical over my hand and my head is on the floor will I be truly effective. When he tries to move me around, you feel like a wall on top of your opponent. Another fine option from here is a lapel crossface, where we go through and we put our thumb right in behind our chinny partner's rear deltoid, and we go across the body and lock up like so. Okay, and this too can be a very, very fine way to work. Another excellent option is the scapular crossface, locked in like so. Okay, between those, you're going to have an excellent control of your opponent's upper body as an alternative to the number one grip, the near side underhook, and head block. All of them have a common feature. Your forehead goes to the mat and enables you to have a free hand as an extra base of support in the direction that you're moving. The next big element is the idea of the position of my free leg. From here, in my opinion, the number one position for my free leg is here as a butterfly hook. When my opponent tries to lift me, it's so hard. When he tries to switch to Ashigarami, it's impossible. And so we can easily ride out our opponent's attacks, regardless of whether we're working from near side underhook or crossface. When he goes to move us, it's so damn difficult. That's by far and away my favorite position. If my opponent's a little bit naive and he puts his foot flat on the floor, and we can go to another grip where we grapevine in here. And this too is an excellent position. When he goes to lift us, it's so easy to step over and mount. However, many of your opponents won't be that naive. They will have their foot across your shin bone like so. In these situations, another nice alternative is to use a back heel action. As I move across my opponent, I take my foot and back heel it close into my opponent's buttocks like so. And from situations like so, using my head on the floor, I can start posting on my training partner's knee here. So when he goes to lift, it's so easy to step over and lock. When you use this method, it's often a good idea to take our foot close to his body and lift. I take my knee off the mat, like so that when he goes to lift me, you just ride right over the top. When he tries to elbow escape on the right side, my knee is so tight to his hip, it's impossible. If there was space, he could elbow escape inside. But when I touch the hip, impossible. And then from here, we sit down into the mounted position, okay? used in this way, we can put together some nice sequences of half guard butterfly passing. I'm just going to briefly demonstrate how this might look in a natural situation, okay? The most common scenario in which we find ourselves going into a half butterfly guard is one where we start in a regular butterfly seated position, and from here we go through and take the inside position with our thumbs. I put my forehead on my training partner's shoulder, and I put my hand around the waist, and from here we come up into this good initial position. Just turning around. Now, as I put my hand by the hip, my elbow inside the knee, I hit a lateral shift across my training partner's body, and I capture the knee. Can you see what's happened? I've ended up here in a half butterfly guard, okay? Now, it's tempting to go forward and lock top, head, and arm. That temptation can do you in. He lifts, Ashigurami, and you're in trouble. So what I always recommend is either go crossface, or better yet, near side underhook. And from either one of these grips, start that action of walking across and getting our forehead to the mat. From forehead to the mat, when he goes to lift us, it's so difficult. As always, from here, as much as possible, we place our foot in the inside position. He goes to lift, there's nothing there. From here, he can only trap my foot now. Then we settle down into our favorite passing position, 3/4 mount. I punch in as an underhook on this side or on this side. It doesn't really make any difference. They're both good options. We put our head across, cut through, and turn half butterfly into a dominant 3/4 mount position. Done in this fashion, you're going to find that half butterfly just represents a slightly different challenge. But just like half guard itself, it's a challenge that could be overcome through good positioning and good tactics. If you follow this simple step-by-step guide, you're going to find it very easy to go with someone your own size and your own skill level. And if you can get to these favorite positions, pass these tricky half butterfly guards.